Miss Carter, I don't think you understand how things work here. The bus driver's voice is condescending as 25-year-old Lauren Carter tries to suggest a safer route across the old bridge. Her first day as a substitute teacher, already off to a rough start with 23 elementary school kids watching the exchange. The driver dismisses her with a wave and accelerates onto the narrow bridge that crosses the White River. The same bridge that's been flagged as structurally unsound for months. What he doesn't know is that Lauren spent 4 years as a Navy deep sea diver. And in exactly 45 seconds, those skills are going to be the only thing standing between these children and drowning. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button if you believe in everyday heroes who save lives when it matters most. And comment below, telling us about the bravest thing you ever witnessed. Lauren had been out of the Navy for 6 months. After 4 years diving in some of the most dangerous conditions imaginable, from ship repairs in freezing Atlantic waters to underwater demolition training in the Pacific, she decided it was time to come home to rural Oregon and figure out what normal life looked like. She grew up in a small town called Riverside, population 3,000, where everyone knew everyone and the biggest excitement was Friday night football games. After high school, she joined the Navy because she wanted to see the world, challenge herself, and do something that mattered. She never expected to end up as a Navy diver. The training was brutal. Only about 30% of candidates made it through the pipeline. But Lauren had always been comfortable in water. She grew up swimming in the White River that ran through town, diving off rocks, holding her breath underwater for as long as she could. The Navy took that natural ability and turned it into something extraordinary. They taught her to dive in zero visibility, to stay calm when everything went wrong, to solve problems underwater while managing limited air and extreme pressure, to rescue people from situations that would make most humans panic. Now she was back home, living with her parents temporarily while she figured out her next move. She had applied to the local fire department, hoping to use her rescue training in a new way. But the hiring process took months, and she needed income in the meantime. That's how she ended up substitute teaching at Riverside Elementary School. Lauren had no teaching experience, but the school was desperate. The regular substitute had quit, and they needed someone who could pass a background check and show up on time. The principal, Mrs. Henderson, practically begged her to take the job. "It's just watching the kids," Mrs. Henderson said. Following the lesson plan, the regular teacher left. Nothing complicated. Lauren figured she could handle it. How hard could watching elementary school kids be compared to diving 200 feet down to repair a submarine? She was assigned to a 4th grade class. 23 kids, ages 9 and 10. The regular teacher, Mr. Phillips, was out sick, and Lauren was given his lesson plans and class roster. The morning went fine. The kids tested her a bit, seeing what they could get away with, but Lauren's military bearing shut that down quickly. She was friendly but firm, and the kids responded to the clear structure. Around noon, Mrs. Henderson made an announcement over the intercom. Due to a gas leak at the middle school building, they were temporarily relocating those students. Elementary school kids would be dismissed early. Buses were being called. Lauren helped her class line up and walk outside to the bus loading area. It was a cold October day, the sky gray and threatening rain. The buses were already pulling up, their yellow paint bright against the dreary weather. Lauren's class was assigned to Bus 7, driven by a man named Frank Dawson. Frank had been driving school buses for 20 years. He was in his late 50s, overweight, and had the attitude of someone who had seen everything and wasn't interested in hearing suggestions from anyone, especially not some young substitute teacher. As the kids filed onto the bus, Lauren noticed the route map posted on the dashboard. They were taking Old Bridge Road, which crossed the White River on a bridge that was at least 50 years old. Lauren had heard her father talking about the bridge just last week. The county had done an inspection and found serious structural problems. There were weight restrictions posted and rumors that it might be closed for repairs soon. She approached Frank before the bus departed. "Excuse me, Mr. Dawson. I noticed you're taking Old Bridge Road. Is that the normal route?" Frank barely looked at her. "Been taking this route for 15 years. It's the fastest way." "I know, but I heard that bridge has structural issues. Maybe we should take the Highway 20 route instead. It's only 10 minutes longer." Frank's expression soured. "Miss Carter, I don't think you understand how things work here. I've been driving these roads since before you were born. The bridge is fine. Now please step back so I can do my job." Lauren wanted to push the issue, but she didn't have the authority. She wasn't the principal or a transportation supervisor. She was just a substitute teacher on her first day. She watched Bus 7 pull away with her class inside, a bad feeling settling in her stomach. Lauren got into her car and followed at a distance. She told herself she was being paranoid, that Frank knew what he was doing. But her military training had taught her to trust her instincts, and her instincts were screaming that something was wrong. The bus route took them along winding country roads past farmland and patches of forest. Then it turned onto Old Bridge Road. Lauren could see the bridge ahead. It was a narrow 2-lane structure made of steel and concrete, spanning about 100 feet across the White River. The water below was running high from recent rains, moving fast and dark. The bus slowed slightly as it approached the bridge, then continued forward. Lauren was about 200 yards behind when she heard the sound, a deep, grinding crack that echoed across the valley. She watched in horror as the entire center section of the bridge collapsed. The bus didn't even have time to brake. In 1 second, it was on solid roadway. The next second, it was falling, plunging 30 feet down into the river below. The impact was catastrophic. The bus hit the water nose first, then rolled onto its side. The current immediately began pushing it downstream. Lauren's body reacted before her mind fully processed what had happened. She slammed on her brakes, threw the car into park, and was out the door running before the dust from the collapse had even settled. She sprinted to the edge where the bridge had been. The bus was already 20 feet downstream, water pouring through the broken windows. She could hear screaming, kids crying, panic. Lauren kicked off her shoes and dove. The water was freezing, maybe 50 degrees. The shock of it would incapacitate most people within minutes. But Lauren had trained in water far colder than this. She had done cold water survival training in conditions that would kill an unprepared person in under 10 minutes. She swam hard toward the bus. The current was strong, pulling at her clothes, trying to drag her downstream. She angled her approach, using the current to help her reach the sinking vehicle. The bus was filling fast. It was on its side, half submerged, the emergency exit on the roof partially above water. Lauren could see small faces pressed against windows, eyes wide with terror. She reached the bus and pulled herself up onto the side. The emergency exit was stuck. She braced her feet and pulled with everything she had. The hatch popped open. Water was pouring into the bus interior. Kids were screaming, climbing over seats, trying to reach the opening. The bus driver, Frank, was unconscious in his seat, a gash on his forehead bleeding heavily. Lauren's training took over. She had done underwater rescue simulations dozens of times. Extract people from submerged vehicles, manage panic, prioritize the most vulnerable. Okay, listen to me. Lauren shouted over the chaos. Her voice cut through the panic with command authority that made the kids stop and look at her. I'm going to get you out, but you have to do exactly what I say. Stay calm, move slowly, and wait your turn. Understand? Several kids nodded, their faces pale but focused. Lauren reached down and grabbed the first child, a small girl who was closest to the opening. She lifted her through the hatch and set her on top of the bus. Stay here and hold on tight, Lauren ordered. She went back for the next child. Then the next. The water level inside the bus was rising steadily. They had maybe 2 minutes before it was completely submerged. Lauren worked faster. She pulled kids up through the hatch one after another, her muscles burning from the effort and the cold. Some of the older kids helped, forming a human chain to pass the younger ones up. The bus lurched as the current pushed it into a deeper section. It rolled slightly and several kids screamed. Lauren braced herself and kept working. 12 kids out, 13, 14. The water was up to the seat backs now. The remaining kids were standing on seats, the water at chest level for some of them. Lauren looked at the situation. The bus was sinking faster. She needed to get the rest of them out now, or they would be trapped underwater. She dove into the interior, the cold water shocking her system again. She grabbed 2 small boys who were frozen in fear and pushed them up toward the older kids who could help lift them through the hatch. 15, 16, 17. The water was at shoulder height now. 3 minutes had passed since the crash. Lauren could see 6 more kids in the back of the bus, trapped behind overturned seats. She took a deep breath and dove underwater, swimming through the submerged interior. 0 visibility. Just like her training. She moved by feel, finding the kids, guiding them over the obstacles, pushing them toward the exit. She surfaced for air. The bus was almost completely underwater now. Only the top 18 inches were above the surface. She dove again, found another child. A girl, maybe 9 years old, her eyes squeezed shut in terror. Lauren grabbed her and swam her to the exit. Hands reached down and pulled the girl up. 18, 19, 20. Lauren's lungs were burning. The cold was starting to affect her, slowing her movements. She had been in the water for almost 5 minutes. Hypothermia was setting in. 3 more kids. She could do this. She dove one more time. The bus was fully submerged now, sinking deeper. She found the last 3 kids huddled together in the very back. 2 boys and a girl. Lauren grabbed all 3, which should have been impossible, but adrenaline and training made it work. She kicked hard, pulling them toward where the exit should be. Her lungs screamed for air. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. She found the opening. Pushed the 3 kids up toward the surface. Hands grabbed them, pulled them to safety. Lauren tried to follow, but her leg cramped. The cold had finally caught up to her. She couldn't kick, couldn't move. The current pulled at her, dragging her away from the bus, deeper into the river. This is how I die, she thought. After everything I survived in the Navy, I drowned in the river I grew up swimming in. Then something grabbed her jacket, pulled hard, dragged her upward. She broke the surface, gasping, coughing up river water. Someone had jumped in after her. A man, probably in his 30s, strong swimmer. He had seen her go under and dove in to help. He pulled her to the riverbank where dozens of people had gathered. Someone threw a blanket around her. Someone else was calling 911. Lauren sat there shivering, watching as all 23 kids from her class were accounted for. Cold, scared, some injured, but alive. Every single one of them. Emergency vehicles arrived. Ambulances, fire trucks, police cars. The kids were loaded into ambulances for evaluation. Most of them just had minor cuts and hypothermia. Frank, the bus driver, was unconscious but stable. He was airlifted to a larger hospital. A paramedic wrapped Lauren in heated blankets and checked her vitals. "You're experiencing moderate hypothermia," he said. "You need to go to the hospital." Lauren shook her head. "I'm fine. Check the kids first." "Ma'am, you were in that water for over 7 minutes. You pulled 23 children out of a sinking bus by yourself. You're not fine. You're a miracle." The story hit the news within an hour. Substitute teacher saves entire class from drowning. By evening, it was national news. Reporters found out about Lauren's Navy background. Former Navy diver rescues school bus. The footage from people's phones showing her pulling kids from the bus went viral. Lauren hated the attention. She tried to avoid interviews, but Mrs. Henderson convinced her to do one press conference. Standing in front of cameras and microphones, wrapped in a blanket because she was still recovering from hypothermia, Lauren kept her answers short. "I just did what anyone would do," she said, a reporter called out. "Miss Carter, the dive rescue coordinator from the local fire department, said what you did was extraordinary. He said most professional rescue divers wouldn't have been able to save that many people that quickly. How were you able to do it?" Lauren thought about her answer. "Training," she said simply. "The Navy taught me to stay calm under pressure, to prioritize, to keep moving even when everything in your body is telling you to give up. I just used what they taught me. What would have happened if you hadn't been there?" Another reporter asked. Lauren's expression darkened. "I don't want to think about that." But everyone else was thinking about it. The county engineer who had inspected the bridge gave an interview saying he had recommended immediate closure, but budget issues had delayed the repairs. If Lauren hadn't been following that bus, if she hadn't dove in immediately, most, if not all of those children would have drowned. The community rallied around her. The school board gave her a commendation. The Navy flew out her former commanding officer to present her with a civilian accommodation for heroism. The governor called to thank her personally, but the moment that meant the most came 2 weeks later. Lauren was back at the school, having accepted a long-term substitute position while she waited for the fire department hiring process to finish. She was walking down the hallway when she saw them, all 23 kids from that bus. They had organized it themselves, apparently. They were standing in the hallway holding a banner they had made. It said, "Thank you, Miss Carter. You are our hero." Several of them were crying. Their parents were there too, many of them openly weeping. One little girl, the first one Lauren had pulled from the bus, walked forward and hugged her. "You saved my life," she whispered. Lauren felt something break inside her. All the emotion she had been holding back since the accident came flooding out. She knelt down and hugged the girl back, tears streaming down her face. "I've got you," Lauren said. "You're safe. You're all safe." The principal, Mrs. Henderson, pulled Lauren aside later that day. "I know you're waiting to hear back from the fire department," she said. "But I want you to know, if you ever want to stay in education, we would be honored to have you permanently." Lauren smiled. "Thank you. But I think I'm meant to be in rescue work." "It's what I'm good at," Mrs. Henderson nodded. "You're good at a lot of things. Those kids idolize you. You show them what real courage looks like." Lauren thought about that conversation as she drove home. She had spent 4 years in the Navy proving herself, fighting to be taken seriously as a female diver, earning respect through actions rather than words. And then, in 7 minutes on a cold October day, she'd done it all over again in her hometown. She didn't need the medals or the news coverage or the praise. What mattered was that 23 kids went home to their families that night. That parents got to hug their children, that lives continued. That was enough. 6 months later, Lauren was hired by the Riverside Fire Department as a water rescue specialist. She developed a new training program for cold water rescue and taught it to first responders across the state. She never forgot that day on the river, how close it had been, how many things could have gone wrong, but she also never forgot the feeling of pulling that last child to safety. The knowledge that her training, her experience, and her willingness to act had made the difference between tragedy and survival. That's what being a hero really meant. Not seeking glory or recognition, just being ready when the moment came. Having the skills and the courage to do what needed to be done. And Lauren Carter had proven, beyond any doubt, that she was ready.